Just to.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Hey, everybody. I'm Captain Planet here with Betty Osceola, the Miccosukee tribe. She was awesome enough to take us out on the airboat. I highly suggest you guys take her to her. What better representative of the Everglades than you? When we were standing earlier talking, I was listening to some of Betty's stories, and she was talking about how, you know, your ancestors said that there wasn't walls of seagrass and walls of cattails like there are now. And I couldn't help but to think, with my scientific background, you know, nutrient pollution, you know, that Mother Earth's gonna take her opportunities when we can. You know, we look at that grass as being a little bit invasive, but it's native, you know, and what's going on is we're the invasive ones. You know, our nutrient pollution and our hydrology, how we affected the water flow. So me as a guy looking in the Everglades for some of the first times with an experienced guide, it doesn't matter what I know about science. I'm going to look and just appreciate what I'm seeing. You know, it takes somebody with a history of knowing what they're doing and listening to their relatives. That's why you guys always see me in bait shops. What do you think as far as the nutrient pollution? You know, we were just sitting here looking at some weeds that have been sprayed with glyphosate most likely, and it's talking about the murky water. What's your opinion?
Well, when we to get to this area, we passed through some very cattail dense and sawgrass dense vegetation, and I had to explain earlier how over time, you know, our elders had seen the area go from open water Everglades for as far as the eye could see. All you saw was shimmering water, and you had some sawgrass and you had some cattail, but not like what we're seeing today, and how all of that has been able to have muck build up over time, and the nutrients got, like, you know, like a population explosion, you know, cattails on steroids, you know, cattails gone wild. That's what I was
Right?
thinking, right?
That's a good one.
Yeah. So coming here, and then as we started getting into the interior of Water Conservation Area 3A and tribal lands, you started getting into the healthier part, and it started opening up some. So and we started getting more areas of less dense that vegetation. And then as we came through to the cypress trees that are on the Western Conservation Area 3A and borders the Big Cypress Preserve, it was all connected once. And right now we're standing on a levee that was created by man to make that disruption of the water flow. And when I got in, and the water's been low, but with the rains, it's raised it up. So when I got into the canal, remembering what I normally remember coming up here, you know, I was like, okay, the water's a little bit more murkier than what I should be seeing. Even though the water's low and it can get murky, it's got a little bit more of a greener tinge to it than what we kind of see. It's like, and I started thinking into my head, what's different? So I started thinking, okay, I'm seeing something different with the change in the water. And what else is I'm seeing that is also different that might be one of the reasons. So I started looking on the levee and started seeing all the dead vegetation, which tells me it had been sprayed and instead of mowed. And with the recent rains, I was like, okay, well, maybe with the recent rains, it's made that chemical run off into the water, and it's also feeding that chemical into the water. And also by killing that plant life, that's also running off back into the water. And those are, you know, we were talking about invasive species like the water hyacinth, some forms of duckweed, and some other plant life, is that so those invasive species like water hyacinths cleans and filters water. And as a kid, you know, I remember my mom and grandma saying, yeah, the water's probably real dirty because we got a lot of water hyacinths, and that cleans the water and it filters it. And that's why you see that. So instead of trying to eradicate and spray it, and when it dies, all those nutrients goes back into the water, maybe we need to think about being you know, looking on the positive side and using that to clean the water and do something else with it.
Absolutely.
Instead of mining for more phosphate, why don't we like reclaim, take out that water hyacinth that absorbed all those nutrients and use it as a fertilizer? Or in other countries, I started looking around to see what they're doing with water hyacinth. One gentleman is making paper from it. One lady is making handbags from it. Another person is making furniture with it. So there's a market for water hyacinth. You can use it, one, to clean up the water, and two, people can make a living with it and help the environment at the same time. And I try to think outside of the box, because right now the state of Florida and all around the world, most everyone is being reactive. We react instead of being taking care of the health and thinking of thinking outside of the box and how we can make things work better.
Think offense instead of defense.
Yes, and okay, let's take something that's a negative. What's that? Take some lemons and make some lemonade.
Right.
That